call, we have the host of All Things in the Name of Love, Erica Risberg, sharing some light on how you can live a more spiritual life. Hey, Erica, welcome to the call. How are you?
Oh, I am delightful, Jeff. It is such an honor to be with you today. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. So we're going to just dive right into it, just to provide a little bit of context for everybody listening and for myself and, all of the people that you're going to be sending this to. Who is Erica Risberg?
Oh, such a varied question. So I am a spirit in a body like everybody else is.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on this personal quest to figure out since I was little what the deal is with separation.
Yeah.
It never made any sense to me. And since I was little, I always sensed that, but I never really got a handle on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent 14 years in college trying to figure out like all the different ways that I could understand what the other is.
Okay.
So I have this intellectual background. And then about 10 years ago, my father died and I dove deep into spirituality. And about 4 years ago, right after the Paris bombings, I just like, I can't do this anymore. And I just like, I'm sick of violence. I'm going to get violence out of my life. I can't stand it anymore. And I took a vow of peace.
And so kind of what did the journey look like? Because there's obviously a whole bunch of ups, a whole bunch of downs, a whole bunch of probably internal questioning, a lot of external questioning. And then so where did you land?
Well, I'm still.
And how many times did you land?
Oh my gosh, I can't even count. So it first started off with the easy, what I thought was hard, but it turned out to be the easy stuff, which was like, I'm just going to go cold turkey and I'm going to stop ingesting anything violent out there. So I stopped watching movies. I stopped reading my action novels.
Okay.
I changed what I listened to, and then I was like, oh shit, what did I just do to myself?
Uh-huh.
Because that was my whole culture.
Yeah.
And then I went, I guess I'm going to meditate more and start developing hobbies because my hobbies were reading these action. I love Clive Cussler. He's a great storyteller.
Okay.
Lots of violence in him. I mean, people die. Yeah. And since I was going...
Just like people are with like Quentin Tarantino in his movies. It's like he's into the we're going to slow motion the blood spewing out of the head after the brain, whatever.
Yeah. And I just was like, so I have this background as a cultural historian, and I just was like, what have I done to myself? I'm completely numbed out.
Okay.
And I want to be able to feel. I want to know that when I'm talking to a dog, the dog will understand me. I know when I'm in my garden that I can thank the bees and they'll know that I'm thanking them because we're not separate.
Yeah.
And so what do I have to do to get to there? Well, so it was 6 months of like this cold turkey of trying to figure out what the hell to read or watch or listen to. And then I found a couple sources. I had some friends who recommended books. And then I realized that I have two amazing bookstores in Portland, Powell's and a store called New Renaissance, which any type of spiritual quest you want to go on, they will have books for.
Okay.
It's pretty wild. So I just started diving into that and figuring out what felt good and what didn't feel good, what resonated. I worked with a woman who does body talk, which is a modality that helps you get into your subconscious beliefs.
Okay.
So she's helped me pull out layers and layers of things that I didn't know was in me.
So they really kind of just dive into a lot of the social conditioning that happened, when you were 5. And,
and your parents' stuff. Like if you've gotten something from your parents, it's even like energetically, it's I'm doing a horrible job of describing, but it's the most advanced form of healing I've ever encountered.
Okay.
And so I've had that, and over the course of the past 4 years, food. Here's a good one. Food. Food is identity, right?
True.
You think, okay, so the first one was, 20 years ago it was alcohol.
Okay.
So I haven't had alcohol in 20 years. But 5 years ago, all of a sudden my body started getting sick when I ate hamburgers. I was like, what the hell is that? Because like I've eaten burgers for most of my life. It's like, yeah, this is what I do on Friday nights. I go out for burgers and fries. It's just
You
a thing.
associated yourself to it.
Yeah. And my body's just going, no, we're done. And I'm like, what do you mean we're done? And I get like seriously violent stomach aches.
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay, maybe it's the bread. I'll stop the bread and I'll see what happens if I just have a burger with lettuce. Same thing. And I was like, okay, what the hell? So I stopped for 3 weeks, tried it again, no change. And I was like, shit, I have to give up beef. Because I don't want to give up beef, but my body's like, you don't really understand. You're done with beef.
Yeah, but we're humans and we're normal, which means we're masters of justifying stuff.
Oh yeah, but like when my body is like, you're not doing this anymore, it's like, fine, I'll stop. And then it was my doctor said, you have to stop drinking coffee. And I was like, seriously? Big identity. My grandfather put it in my baby bottle.
Oh, wow.
So coffee is like 18 months on identity. Erica is a coffee drinker.
Wow.
And so I had to divest myself. That took 6 months. I was really gentle with myself.
No wonder your parents are like, why isn't she sleeping at night?
Right. Like, why is she hyper all of a sudden? What's going on? And my grandfather never told my mom. She just thought it was this hyper kid. And so, doing that was like 6 months of like 1 scoop of decaf, 2 scoops of decaf, like once a month. I'd just increase it until it was all decaf. And then I was like, why am I doing this anymore? Because
the whole point.
The whole point was the caffeine. So now I make my own chai, and it's green tea and white tea. And that's a whole different thing because I love having that warm cup of something in the morning.
Uh-huh.
So that was like, okay, I can substitute that. Then it was sugar. And then it was soy. And then it was 3 months ago, my body was like, I don't like the taste of chicken anymore. I'm like, what? Really? Yeah. And then a month ago, it was like, yeah, I don't really like those little haddock, but you can have salmon like once every 3 weeks. I was like, I'm not someone that ever imagined that I would be plant-based.
Uh-huh.
And I feel so much healthier.
Well, I don't doubt it. Because I've done some calls with some amazing people, like Dr. Terry Walls and just, the paleo moms. You got Dr. Sarah Ballantyne, and it's the stuff that they share. It's like, that's like, it makes me want to eat healthier after hearing it. And it's like, I'm still going to eat steak. Don't get me wrong, but I'll add more greens onto the plate because I'm right. The value is there.
Oh, yeah, and
like nothing against you. It's like, hey, my body's not telling me to cut out steak yet. But but I also try to do things in balance too, though. You know what I mean? So I'm not overindulging myself on like chocolate and ice cream all day long and everything. It's like, sure, steak here, just a well balanced, like, got your greens, you have your chickens, your proteins, and all of that fun stuff. And then, so I can kind of relate is because when my wife and I, if we're out, we're eating, we try to eat, for the most part, a healthier, balanced diet. We cheat here and there. And then once in a while, we'll go get like a burger and fries and whatever. And it's like, oh, that was good. And then now I just feel sick. Because my body's just like, why are you doing this to me? And it's like, because it tastes good.
I know.
But I suffer after.
I totally get it. Like, and my thing is like, I am not judging anyone. That's like not my thing. Is like, I don't tell anyone what to do with it. But like, just the only thing I suggest is that you listen to your body.
Yeah. Because
your body is like this amazing communication system that most of us don't pay attention to.
Yeah, exactly. And everything, like, I don't want to dive down this complete topic, but it's a whole topic in itself. Is like, yeah, look, your gut, your poop, like all of it, like your body's telling you a whole lot of stuff if those two things are not how they should be.
Right.
Like if you're blowing it out every time you go, something's wrong with your gut.
Something's wrong, yeah. So like that's just another
nugget
example
for all you guys out there that are blowing stuff out. Like, go get yourself checked. It is not normal.
So like that's another thing. So then what else? I'm like, okay, what else am I gonna dig through? And now like I have I don't know if you know the company TerraCycle. It's
No.
TERRA Cycle.
Okay.
They will recycle everything.
Oh, wow.
And I all of a sudden connected with, oh my gosh, all that plastic that China's not taking anymore, I'm killing things in the ocean with it. Oh my gosh, what do I do with that? So
Yeah.
I found this company, TerraCycle, and they have a box for plastic bags, which is
Okay.
amazing. And they work with manufacturers to use the plastic bags so they get manufactured into clothes. But they'll even recycle cigarette butts. How do you do that?
Wow.
And so like I have 3 boxes. I have one for bottle caps, I have one for yogurt tops, and I have one for plastic bags. And you buy them and they bring such awareness to you because it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had this many plastic bags in my life. So then it's changing my shopping habits.
Yeah.
So I'm not using as many, and I know I'm not putting anything back in the ocean.
Yeah.
So that's like another aspect of how I've shifted. And then I started doing a podcast on my journey, and I never expected this because not I have the skill sets for it, but what was shocking to me is I thought I was just going to share my journey, like what I learned and how to get more into nutrition and get calmer with yourself and pay more attention to yourself. Well, no, that's not what happened. What happened is I'm talking to people about their spiritual journeys and how they coexist as humans in, spirits having a human experience, and how that journey is, and like how they figured out how to navigate being human and spiritual at the same time, because that's not something that's taught in our culture.
No. Yeah. Religion is taught.
Right.
That's why everybody's arguing.
It is.
And so along this journey and this, I guess, never-ending path of personal growth and development and, ever constant change, how did All Things in the Name of Love come to fruition?
Well, All Things in the Name of Love was not something I decided upon. My intuition, my non-physical team, whatever you want to call it, nudged me. Like when you get that gut feeling.
Yeah.
And it was like, you're doing a podcast. And my mentor said, I'm getting the guidance that it should be called All Things in the Name of Love.
Okay.
And I fucked around for a year and didn't do anything with it because I was terrified. Because my ego was going, what will people say if I do this, right?
Yeah.
And then I got a kick in the ass this year. And it's like, no, we weren't joking. You're doing the podcast. I was like, oh, you meant it. Oh, okay. So I'm doing it now. And it's just this fascinating thing because I have no qualms talking to complete strangers about their spiritual experiences, which is fascinating to me because I didn't think this was something that I'd ever, I'm a cultural historian. I don't have this, I am, but at the time my ego was like, who do you think you are doing this, right?
Yeah.
But that is just what is coming through. And what I found is that when I do interviews, I don't have a set of questions. I get the questions given to me.
Right there with you.
Right there with me.
People ask me, they're like, oh, so do you have any questions for me to review? I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? I was like, we're going to go down a bunch of rabbit holes and we're going to have fun. And
yeah.
I don't like scripted questions anyway. I was like, this isn't Q&A. It's not authentic. It's like, that's not the real you. You practice that answer. We didn't plan on talking about poop.
Right.
But that happened.
Right. Because that's the whole joy of having. Right.
Yeah. And so kind of along this journey of, being the PhD and getting, hitting that and then become, carrying yourself around by society standard as I'm an intellectual. There's thought process behind everything that I'm doing. And then now you're going down this entirely different journey of you need to be spiritual. You're not in control of anything. The sooner you realize that, the happier you'll be.
Right.
And, and all of this type of stuff. So how did that transition
That's
happen?
been, I like to say I'm a recovering academic because it is hard. My brain is so conditioned, and I grew up in a very emotionally dysfunctional family, so my brain became my coping mechanism,
Hmm.
right? And so telling my brain that I'm okay and it doesn't have to over process anything like it's used to is I actually talk to my brain. I'm like, no, honey, you don't have to do this now. You can calm down because it's such a behavior. It's
Uh-huh.
like such it's a default. And I've been able to channel it. So I am amazing at doing research. This is like like if I had a skill that I have spent 30 something years doing it, that I can just say, I know research. I can find anything that anybody puts in front of me that they want to know. If you give me enough time, I will find it.
Yeah.
Like that's just a thing that I do.
I think most
And
women are like that, though.
probably
Who needs the CIA? Just get a
they just
just
weren't
find a disgruntled ex.
they
You'll get
just
all the information.
they just weren't as masochistic as me.
No,
So
but even
now
our relationship, that's how my wife is. Like I was like
oh,
she'll just boom. I'm like, how did you like? I googled the same thing. Like,
oh, that's a thing.
yeah,
It's a skill that we have.
it is.
And so now with the spiritual aspect,
Mm-hmm.
what I do is I get the guidance to like this week I had a message come in when I woke up that serve me. It's like serve me. Oh, I have to not serve myself. I have to serve my higher self. That's something my mind can't do anything about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the inspiration that's coming from a deeper part. What my mind can do is when I feel the inspiration, like, oh, I should do this, then I can say, okay, mind, go do that.
Okay.
Like and have that channeled, um, you can't tackle the whole world. I'm going to give you a task to accomplish right now, and you can go do that, and
Yeah.
that can make you happy. And it's a process that I haven't mastered it because this is one of my crosses to bear is to just get out of that head space and more into my
Being in
heart space.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It's like it's one of the hardest thing is being able to identify and acting on what you can and can't control.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times if we can control something, then it's very easy to act on that one. But the acting on the what we can't control is, well, you're going to act on it, but are you going to act in a healthy way or are you going to act in an unhealthy way?
Right. And
Because
that
you can
requires
accept it and move on, and that takes a lot more discipline and practice
mm-hmm.
versus beating your head against the wall, getting bloody, trying to figure out how to control an uncontrollable situation.
What you can control is your response.
This is true. Yep. That's what life is, you know? You
Mm-hmm.
can't control. Everybody's so worried on trying to control everything happening externally. No, you just need to control what's here because it's like that person that's yelling at you because they're having a bad day. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in the shopping line at the supermarket because you cut them off apparently even though they weren't there. And you
Right.
ruined their whole day, so now you're the world's worst person and they're going to tell you that for the next 10 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like you can either retaliate with the same type of attitude or you can smile and give them a hug or just
Mm-hmm.
go to a different line. You know, remove
Right.
yourself from the situation, be like, I don't even need this negativity and I'm just going to
Mm-hmm.
go right over there. You have yourself a great day and
Right.
keep all the other words inside your head and just keep walking.
Right. And then the other part to that is if you get triggered by it, like
Yeah.
if you get your um find a space for you to process those emotions.
Hmm.
Because if you don't, they're going to stick with you.
Yeah, you're going to be mumbling in the car the whole way home. Man, that guy told me I should have said this. I should have said that. It's like, well, you did half of it, but there's the other half. Because now you're still beating yourself up about it. You
Right.
know, it's like you might as well have said this stuff. Then at least you'd be done.
Right. Right. Because it's like you can't, and we have this tendency to hold in, like if we're taught to have manners, right? We don't want to say that thing even though we feel it. So sit with yourself, which is really hard to do in our culture today because there's so many distractions. But
Yeah.
sit with yourself, even if it's like 5 minutes, and say, okay, what was it that made me feel that way?
Yeah.
And it may be a childhood thing. You don't know. And allow yourself the space to really feel the emotion, because then you don't have to carry it anymore.
How important, or not even how important, because I know it's important. So I guess how big of a change do you see it in, maybe somebody that you're working with or helping coach or anything like that, when they realize how big of an impact social conditioning is? Realizing that all of this stuff from my childhood and all this stuff that they're thinking, oh, that's just part of who you are. It's like, well, there's a whole lot more to that statement.
Well, it's all of my friends go through this process, so it's fun to see whoa, I didn't even know I was carrying that in me, right? Like for, I'll give an example from a recent experience in my life. So I was born with a dislocated hip, and I was in traction at 6 months. Really, really traumatic. I know that story really well. What I hadn't done until a couple months ago was actually process the emotions behind it. And so I felt betrayal. I felt like I couldn't trust anyone, because you're 6 months old and you're put in traction, right? You don't have any context. You just have fear. So I was sitting with someone who was able to help me just actually address my emotions and sit there for like a couple minutes. And for 90 seconds, I experienced the biggest fear, trauma, betrayal I could have ever imagined feeling. I was doubled over in pain and sobbing hysterically for 90 seconds. I don't have it anymore. I don't. It's gone. I don't have that.
You let it go.
I let it go, but I had to be fully present to it, instead of like, yeah, I'll deal it later. No, I have to be here now. And to not have to carry those really deep, painful emotions is really powerful. And everyone that I know, because I get to live in Portland with a bunch of spiritual people, we all go through this process of actually sitting with our emotions and then releasing. And it's like, we don't, I have a friend who thought she was a lesbian, but what it was years and years of abuse and trauma. And now she's dating a guy. And I'm not saying this is true for every person. It is true for her. So I am not making any claims on that at all. I want to make sure that that's said loud and clear. I'm not saying that this is a thing. I'm saying for her, this is what has happened in her life because she sat with the trauma and the pain. And I think in our society, we have so many distractions. And that was what I noticed with the violence. It's like, I was just numbing myself out because I didn't want to feel what was going on within.
Yeah. So how are you now with a movie or a book, or are you just still...
I just don't, last night there was a James Bond film on with Pierce Brosnan in the Russian thing. I don't remember which one it was.
Okay.
And
like GoldenEye or something.
I think so, yeah.
That sounds about right.
And I walked by, I was making dinner, and my partner had it on, and there's this massive explosion, and I went right back into the kitchen. I was like, that's unnecessary. Now I have to process this now, because it's just this violence that, I don't even go see comedies anymore because they have violence.
A lot of times, yeah.
And it's like, geez, guys, you don't need it. You don't. I have to go back to the 40s to get funny things that don't have violence in them. Really, this is bad. Or the 70s, or just this time where this lack of need to scare us.
Okay.
Because we're scared into thinking that we have to live in this illusion.
Yeah, and a lot of it's relative, though. It's that's relative for you. For somebody else, like any violence or anything. Like for me, example, I'll speak for myself. That's all I can speak for. For me, if I watch like a James Bond movie, I knew which movie I was like, yeah, I think that's I knew which movie. I think it's Golden.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's when they're the Russians and he's some nuclear thing or whatever.
Something.
And it's nothing for me. It's like, okay,
Right.
great movie. And then it's like, sure, what happened in the movie? Oh, yeah, like he fought the person and the thing and it blew up and then he got the girl and then it was a different girl that he was supposed to, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
What was their names? James Bond? I don't know the other person's name.
Right.
I don't know. Because it's just
Right.
nothing. But it's relative. But I think when people are, they're just so conditioned to use that type of stuff to numb it, like they don't spend enough time looking inside. They're just looking externally for those, numbing agents, whether it's violence, whether it's putting yourself in a violent situation, and accepting that, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's porn, whether it's this, whether it's that, whatever it is. It's like you need to be self-aware. And I think that's a lot of it is people aren't spending the enough time to become self-aware on who they really are versus who they're being told they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, you're told you need to be this way. Obviously, it's not working for you.
Right.
Stop trying to reinvent the wheel and figure out why you're a broken person. Newsflash. Everybody on the planet is broken in one way or another. You're not the only one. Like, you're thinking, you're walking around wondering, man, why do all these people got it figured out? And every single other person walking around you is thinking the same thing.
Yep.
How does everybody else have it figured out? Nobody has it all
Nobody
figured
has
out.
it figured out. No.
Good luck. If you're the person that thinks you got it figured out, you're screwed up than the rest of us.
Right. I mean, the only thing we can do is like heal the stuff that we have and not judge other people for where they're at.
Sure. Exactly. And it's like nobody gets it all. Nobody gets it perfect. It's just like how to get tougher in a sense. It's like, hey, no, I don't need to deal with that. And some of the hardest things to do as an adult is to just shut your mouth and turn around and walk away from a situation, from a movie, from a James Bond movie with an explosion. It's like, hey, that's something for me, so I just need to not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And versus, or somebody being, for the guy or girl that's in that type of a relationship, it's like you need to be self-aware that you're reliving certain types of circumstances based off of social conditioning, but you need to take the time to learn that about yourself and have the backbone to walk away. But also what's going to come with that is reaching out and finding a support system. Because for me, I believe association is very, very key in any type of success, personal, financial, business, whatever it is. Your association is really going to help define where you're going to be going. Because if you hang out with 5 broke people, I can tell you who the 6th one is going to be.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true.
And it's the same thing with spiritual healing or in people, not to get all religious or anything, because I believe in Jesus. That's how I process. That's how I was raised. I understand it, but I don't intertwine that with being preaching religion.
Right.
Because that's where all the wars start happening. It's like,
that's
hey, if you're really trying to help somebody and help them be better and have them focus on something, focus on Jesus. Here's how he can help you. Here's how this, and it gives them a positive outlook, and that's their coping. For some cultures, it's Buddha and everything, and I'm not going to start driving down because then that starts going down into religion.
Right.
But people just need to spend the time to, like, are you actually looking for that positive association, really, is what I'm trying to say. Are you seeking this out? Are you doing, like you do so well, are you doing the research to get you out of the situation that you're complaining about? Or are you just complaining about the situation and then reliving it over and over again?
Right.
And
I get it because, for my journey, I grew up Protestant, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the environment I was given, and it was incomplete for me because it wasn't it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the differentiation we need. Like the religion will bring you to a certain point, but then you have to go and do your own journey.
Yeah. Religion can kind of lay like a little bit of the starting path, but
Right.
you've got to figure out like the when you get your own connection spiritually, that's when you really figure it out, because that's something you need to do on your own. Can't be
Hmm.
taught. You can't read it in a book. You're gonna have to figure it out on your own, and everybody's path is different, you
Yeah.
know. And so, just like it's one of the things that I kind of just bring to the surface is like a lot of times people are always preaching like, oh, church, 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 church. It's like, hey, I agree with that, but some of the most deceitful, lying people are the people that you're going to church with, and some of the people that are completely covered with tattoos and piercings are the kindest, most caring, loving people. So
Hmm.
don't just preach church, 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 or religion, religion, religion. It's like there's a whole other side to that book, and
Right.
turn the page and go full circle with the conversation. Don't just push your agenda, for lack of better words, which
Hmm.
happens so often in politics, and I'm not even going to touch that.
Oh, I don't, I gotta say, I used to be a news junkie, and I actually ran for state senate in Maine in '98, and I'm so far removed from politics now because all it does is, oh, I can't change what's going on out there. What can I change within?
Yep.
And so it's it always comes back to me like if that's a trigger for me, what's going on inside that's causing the trigger? What
Mm-hmm.
wound do I have to heal? And then when I go out in the world, um, I try to show up with as much kindness as I can. I had a beautiful set of experiences last year. I was walking dogs part time because I miss having dogs.
Uh
We
huh.
can't have a dog where I live. Um, and two dogs on two separate occasions walked me up to homeless people. And the dogs don't see anything, right? Dogs are just dogs.
Yeah.
Dogs are amazing beings on this planet. And all of a sudden, because the dog acknowledged them, I was able to see them.
Yeah.
And I was able to have these really deep, amazing, beautiful conversations with them because I didn't see what society told me they were. I saw them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we all shed those layers, like just because somebody looks, they're in a different socioeconomic situation than me, that doesn't make them any less human than me. It just makes them different from me.
Yeah.
And so that's that deeper sense of connecting with others that I never found in my religion, but I find it daily in my spirituality.
Oh, that's 100% true, because kindness is very underrated.
Hmm.
And it can open so many doors for people. It can bring so many new experiences, whether they're 5 minute experiences, 5 second experiences, just the simple hello to the stranger. And little do you know how much you changed that person's day because they were, as an example, walking to a job to go kill themselves for whatever reason, because
Hmm.
nobody ever talked to them, and they're just the crap of the crap, and they're literally just depressed out of their mind, and they're just like, I'm
Hmm.
just gonna end it today because nobody cares about me. But you're random, hey, hi, how are you, hope you have a great day. Oh, somebody saw me,
Hmm.
and you just changed that person's life. Very extreme example, but in today's society, that probably happens every day. We just don't
Yeah.
know about it because people are too focused on either paying attention to what the news is saying, which is all crap,
Right.
or
Right.
they're focused on themselves
Right.
because it's just a go 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 me 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 society.
Right.
And so kindness and empathy and caring is, oh, that's weak. It's like, no, that actually takes strength to do, because it's
Hmm.
forcing me to look at something besides myself,
Right.
you know. And
And it,
sometimes there's tough love, and then there's gentle love, and there's different forms of it. But just having the right heart, I think intent is what matters the most,
hmm.
you know?
Oh yeah, I completely agree with that. I love um one of my biggest gifts is giving big bear hugs. And I just love going up to somebody and just giving them that full on hug because 9 times out of 10, I'll feel them lean in for it
Mm-hmm.
because nobody else has given them one. And it's like, oh, how did you know I needed that level of attention, that level of love, that level of compassion that isn't given in our world? And it needs to happen a lot more because that human touch,
Yeah.
that that connection is just so important. And it's so transformative when you don't have that. And if, Portland's a very huggy city, so I'm very blessed that way. If you're living in Boston, it might not work as well.
Oh, so don't go to New York and like try to hug everybody,
Yeah, maybe
and
not so much.
Boston,
Maybe not.
and
Maybe not.
Jersey. Hey,
You're
can I
like,
hug you? They'll be like, dude, what? Are you sick?
get away from me.
What's wrong
But
with
I
you?
mean, like just making eye contact even. That's an amazing thing in our world right now. Making eye contact, taking
Yeah.
yourself off your phone and looking up and saying hi to somebody, making eye contact. That's huge.
I think this would be a funny one just to like even capture on video is to just have when somebody asks you how your day is, genuinely tell them how your day is. Don't say good. Then see how much they really care.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's it's like it might make you feel a little uncomfortable at first, but you'll learn a whole lot about a lot of other people that you think are something and really aren't.
Yep.
Because we're just conditioned to be like, oh, hi, hey, I'm good. How are you?
Right.
And in my
But
head, it's like Jumanji going on in my head because everything is just turmoil.
mm-hmm.
But no, hi, I'm smiling.
Right. And,
You
just
know?
getting into that more vulnerable space, which is something that's really scary
Yeah,
to
it is.
expose. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to actually tell you how I feel because you asked.
For
And
sure.
I'm gonna place that that trust in you
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to honor that
Yep.
and not run off with it and gossip or anything like that because that's the other thing is like we need to build that trust back.
For sure.
So
Yeah. It's not an easy thing to do,
no, it's not.
you know, and a lot of people, the more people that we can get to do it, then the better off the world will be. But that's just a process. It's one day at a time. And it's like we mentioned earlier, right? What can I do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what can I do? Who can I touch today? Who can I speak to today? And that's really one of the benefits of technology nowadays. And that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast. It was like, hey, there's a whole lot more people that can hear something that they may need to hear
Mm-hmm.
via this,
Yeah.
you know, because it's a common form of media. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm like, oh, what do I want to listen to? Oh, this one's inspiring me, and that's the goal of the podcast. Is like it's just to share. Is there any specific thing? It's just to share as many different stories as possible,
Mm.
as many
Simple.
different. So it can be somebody like David Johnson, who is a blind Paralympic athlete, and you got Christy Eastman, who's an amputee single mom, and you have this story and that story, and you
Mm-hmm.
know Ashley Puida, who was a victim of domestic violence, and she's like an IFBB pro, you know, fitness model, and just doing
Wow.
that stuff. And one of her things is sexy without makeup. So it's like just being your natural, beautiful self and taking care of your body, and you can be a powerful, beautiful woman without having to plaster on all the plastic
Mm-hmm.
and do all the fake injections and this and that and conforming
Yeah.
to standards of society and just so many different people. And then just, or, you know, because the more stories that, I guess it's facts tell, stories sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can tell me the facts about the car, but the story about, oh, when I was out driving it and it hit the corn and the breeze is in my hair, like that's going to sell me the car.
Right.
I don't care what
Right.
the torque ratio is on the freaking thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
But it's
totally
just, it's
do.
that. So if somebody can relate to that story, though, because
Yeah.
everybody that's going to relate to you, they may never have related to the other 50 people that I've already talked to. And then
Right.
they'll hear this and be like, I know somebody that needs to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
because
That's
none of
really
the other
different.
ones related. So it's just telling as many stories as possible.
That's beautiful. It is. It's just so beautiful because that's what's going to connect us.
Yep. Because I mean, there's so many different people. No two people are the same. They can be
Mm-mm.
very similar, but there's going to be something different about them, and that something different about them is what makes them unique, and that's what they need to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's too busy trying to be the same. It's like, no, be yourself. And a lot of people, and that's kind of how I get categorized is my wife always tells me, like, you don't care what people think. I'm like, no, I really don't. Why? I don't know
Right.
them.
Right.
And
Right.
it's like, I'm like, why am I going to waste my time conforming, trying to impress the people that, one, I don't know, or two, I don't even really care to know?
Right.
Because I might know them, and it's like, well, I don't know. Whatever.
Well, yeah. I mean,
It's like,
you can always send them love.
yeah, it's like, I don't wish anything negative on them. It's like, but
Right.
I'm not going to let whether or not they think I'm good or not
Right.
dictate my life.
Right.
You know? I live for myself selfishly, because I think you have to be selfish.
Which
If you're not selfish about yourself and the way that you live your life, then you're doing it wrong.
right.
Because you have to, it's self-maintenance.
Right. And I think there's this perception when you say selfish, it's this shallow, I don't care about anyone else. And that
Nope.
isn't the case at all.
Yeah.
It's like,
If
I
you
love
learn how to be
myself
selfish
enough.
in the right way, it allows you to be selfless in ways that you couldn't even imagine.
Mhm.
But you have to learn what that line is, because it can be a very thin line, but a lot of times that just looks like conceit or greed or whatever it is that society
Right.
has, oh, it's the man. No,
No.
you just want a Bentley, but you're working at McDonald's. It's not the man. You're just in the wrong system.
Right.
You got to figure out a way to do something different. So don't blame, and I use that extreme example because it's like, don't put blame on others.
Mm-hmm.
It's whatever's wrong in your life, figure it out, because it's because something internal majority of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, something external may have happened, but it was your reaction. It's like, oh, but I got hit by a car and almost lost my life, and so I had to cut my leg off, so I'm going to be depressed and mad at the road. Really? Maybe you should listen to a podcast that I did with somebody that went through that exact same thing, and she's
Mm-hmm.
pursuing modeling in LA.
Which is amazing.
So what's your excuse?
Right.
But a lot of people,
it's
but you got to
take-
learn how to be selfish in order to be that selfless.
right. Right.
What's your
because
take? I want your take.
Well, I agree. I think the selfish is actually self-care. And self-care is not just like, even though they're amazing, pedicures and manicures and massages. It's like, I have to care for my soul.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? Well, it's hard and it's so freaking rewarding. It's like, would I ever, like, I have my mentor has something called an emotional empowerment guide.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to sit with myself. If I feel a tension in my body, I sit with it, I clear it out, I return any energy I pick up from someone back to them, so I'm not carrying it. I have to do my own inner child work, so I have to figure out at what age did I feel this sadness that triggered me in the first place. And then I do something that sounds kind of weird, but it works really well. I take a sea salt bath because it clears the energy out.
Yeah.
And then I dance because dance changes the energy.
Yep. Music, dance, like all these little things. Just what are you consuming? Consumption. It's like, are you giving yourself the space to consume a calm, relaxed atmosphere? Salt bath with a candle lit, with some nice aromatherapy going on. So you can just nothing, just turn it off. Just be present and be like, like feel like the stress leaving your body. Because it happens. You can literally be lying in the bath and feeling the stress leaving your body. It's not some hocus pocus stuff. It's like, no, but you need to mentally be present in order to do that.
Right.
That's why your massage felt so good, because somebody else was relieving the stress from your body, but then you wondered why you were still all tensed up by the time it was nighttime.
Right.
Because you weren't mentally doing it.
Right.
So I think so many issues in society can be fixed, as you can well attest to this, is that if people just started figuring out what's wrong inwards.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's pointing at the problem somewhere else.
Right.
But it's just, you have to do the work. But that's where
Mm-hmm.
people don't want to do the work. They'd rather pop a pill.
The pills aren't going to help you.
No, it'll numb it, though.
I had a neighbor today who told me that she just got herself off an antidepressant,
Mm-hmm.
and so she was having eating problems, and all of a sudden she's hungry again. I was like, okay, that's just wrong, because her body was actually shutting down from this pill that someone told her to take and that she couldn't get off, and she finally was like, you know what? I'm just going to take myself off because nobody's listening to me.
Yeah.
And the fog's gone, her hunger's come back.
She listened to her body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do, is just listen to our bodies, because they want to help us be who we are.
Yeah, your body knows more than you think it does.
Yeah.
That's why
very
there's
smart.
that's why there's the mind and the body. It's two things that have to work together.
Mhm.
Without the body, the mind is useless. But without
Right.
the mind, the body's useless.
Right.
So like, there's two pieces to the puzzle there.
Mhm.
So what is, like, if there's just the one point, what is that one? Because obviously there's a whole series of them, but the one point
Right.
in your life that really just made that turn to changing almost everything about how you operated.
When it's two, when my father died,
Mm-hmm.
he was in hospice, and I came back into the room and I looked at his body and I didn't recognize him. Like, he wasn't there anymore. Like, his soul had left his body, and then I felt his soul scatter. And I was like, okay, this is something different. This is something I can't mentally process, but it tells me that he's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I became aware that we don't die, our bodies do.
Yep.
Part two is when I saw I don't know what it was about the Paris bombings, but it was like people were dancing, they were loving, they were enjoying their lives, and somebody just slaughtered them. And I couldn't stand to live in that world anymore.
Yeah.
Because it didn't make any sense how anyone could be in joy and be killed for it. And then I just went on, and I remember I heard a meditation, and I was like, I don't know who's listening, but I'm vowing to take a vow of peace right now, because I can't do this anymore. I can't live in this society where violence is so accepted, so numbing, so dismissed. These were people who had lives, and I can't contribute to this anymore. I have to change, because I am part of the problem. And that's what ushered me on this insane
Journey.
unfolding over the past 4 years. Because I couldn't take it. I could not handle the responsibility of not doing something anymore.
Mm-hmm. And so once you kind of hit that point and you really began to look inward, because that's one of the bigger changes, is you started looking inward for a lot of things, and researching and finding answers, and then getting the mentors to help you along the way. Mentorship, very important. Anybody listening, get mentors.
Oh yeah.
Not an ebook. Get a mentor.
When you can talk to.
Yeah, nothing against ebooks. Like, sure, you can learn the how to, but get a mentor.
Yeah.
But like, how different did everything else in your life kind of start happening for the better once you started accepting like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, because there's something there, like you achieved the PhD, you achieved the check marks, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't really get that, you know, like it's like when you finally know what your calling is and you're like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, what it's done is it's reconnected me with aspects of myself that I'd neglected.
Mm-hmm.
Like I paint. I got a keyboard a few months ago. I haven't played piano in like 40 years.
You
Um,
got
yeah,
selfish.
yeah, it's selfish
You got selfish.
because my heart, my soul is screaming at me, you have to play music again.
Uh-huh.
So as I'm unfolding all of these things, I'm finding all of these aspects to me that have been repressed because of me being a highly sensitive person and taking rejection way deeper than I should have. If somebody doesn't like my painting, oh, that means I'm not a good painter. No, it just means that they don't like my painting.
Yeah.
But my 10-year-old self can't hear that.
Nope.
So like just giving myself permission to be that person that I am. Like I have about 50 essential oils and I mix my own skin products now because it's just fun. It brings me joy.
Good.
And so like just letting myself, giving myself permission to be myself
Love it.
is the biggest unfolding that I've had through this whole process, and it keeps getting more and more interesting as I go along because as I keep expanding, I find out more about myself that I didn't know.
No, that's so, and it's a healthy thing too.
Yeah.
People don't realize how healthy it is to, you know, I'm using the word selfish because I think selfish is a positive thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's healthy for you to be selfish. But it's just like anything else. Like it's in moderation. It's not
Mm-hmm.
all about me. There's got to be a balance to it. You know,
Right.
just like salt. A little bit of
Mm-hmm.
salt makes things taste delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Empty the entire salt container on that same piece of food, you're not going to think it's so delicious.
Right.
You know, it's just like that. But
Yeah.
it's so everything is in moderation. Just like an apple a day is great, but 30 apples in a day is probably not too healthy for you.
Right.
And
Give you a
and
little
so
bellyache.
yeah, just like a damn burgers.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, your journey is just, it's so amazing. And to hear that, you know, there was the family member, but then when it was an event that had nothing to do with you,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's what triggered almost a spiraling effect of this, you know, funnel of personal change.
Yeah.
And that's just an amazing story. And so kind of for real quick, while we're winding up here, if there's that one person out there that's listening and they're kind of getting that little inkling of like something's not right, or I feel like there's change that needs to happen and I don't really know how to do it. Obviously the first step is you got to start working on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But so from you having, you know, just really been in depth in that over the last 4 years, what's your first couple steps of advice for the person that's wanting to make a lot of internal changes and knows it needs to happen, but just doesn't have a clue on how to make it start?
The biggest suggestion I have is be gentle because you're going to go through a lot of judgment. Take one aspect of your life, like if you drink 5 cups of coffee a day, go down to 4. Don't put as much sugar in. Like really, it's a slow step. I don't want anyone to.
It's a marathon.
Yeah, it
not a
is. It's like, and
race.
I have done cold turkey things before, and I do not recommend it because then you're in shock.
Yeah, yeah.
I would suggest if you spend a lot of time doing one thing, like binge watching on Netflix or spending 6 hours playing video games, give yourself 10 minutes of quiet. Find out what you're avoiding. Because when you do that kind of addictive behavior, you're hiding. And I'll plug my website. My podcast. I've got so many healers on my podcast that you can tune into to find out what resonates with you. And that's my thing is like I want to get the knowledge out so I can help people heal. So when they feel like they're overwhelmed, when they feel like they don't have anywhere to turn, I have stuff.
No, absolutely. That's at the end of every podcast for all of my guests, I always make sure that they have a couple minutes. So since you already kind of led into it, make sure you can tell everybody where can they find you, where they can get your information, what the name of your podcast is. Like give them this is your one big ad.
All right. So
I want people to find you.
Okay, so I am Erica Risberg. My podcast is called All Things in the Name of Love. I am on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Google Play.
Website also is allthingsinthenameoflove.com, and Erica is Erica. And your last name, let me pull it up here, or you can spell it.
It's R-I-S as in Sam, B as in boy, E-R-G, and I'm on Instagram as Dr. Erica Risberg. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter is Erica's VOs, and I think that's it. Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. No, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I had a blast. Thank you so much, Erica.
Thank you, Jeff. I had a blast too. Thank you so much.
I look forward to seeing all your success and just hearing how many people you're going to be able to help. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the podcast. I know a bunch of you haven't subscribed yet. Also, don't forget to follow me on social. You can look me up, Real Jeff Bill. Also on Instagram, we have our Blast Talks podcast page. Make sure you subscribe and follow both of those accounts to make sure you're staying up to date on all the new content, all that fun stuff. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.